As a beginner skateboarder, the worst part about not being able to land ollies is not knowing where you're going wrong. Is it your back foot? Or maybe it's your front foot? Or maybe it's just the moon's gravitational pull on the earth just throwing you a little off balance? That's just a theory, but I ain't no scientist. Well, today I'm gonna help you identify where you're going wrong in your ollies and what you can do to fix them. I'm going to address the 3 most common issues with ollies and what you can do to make them stanky, but like stanky in a good way, not in a bad way. This is a good stank. And as always, if you wouldn't mind hitting that like button down below before we start this video, and if you wanna be extra cool, go ahead and hit subscribe too. And with that being said, let's go ahead and start fixing those ollies of yours. And there's nothing the stupid moon can do about that one. Before we get to our first problem and solution, I'd recommend that you check out my brief ollie tutorial first. It's only like 3 minutes long and it's a great refresher even if you've already seen it before. That ollie video is literally the first video I made for this channel, so please ignore the poor lighting and bad audio and honestly lack of personality. With that being said, we can move on to our first common issue with ollies. There's a variation of an ollie that beginners like to do called the Chickenfoot ollie. Essentially what that means is that when you do your ollie, your front foot or back foot is going and landing on the cement instead of landing on your board. You'll know right away if you're doing a Chickenfoot ollie because one of your feet will be on the ground while your board is still in the air. So why is this happening? Well, most likely this is happening because of some kind of fear of commitment to the trick. Most likely you're scared because you're afraid that the board is gonna fly out beneath you when you land, or that somehow you're gonna miss the board completely and get hurt another way. I totally get it. Sometimes with skateboarding tricks, there's this weird disconnect between you physically being able to do the trick and mentally being able to do the trick. But how do you get over this so you can land with both feet on the board and look cool as heck? First, you need to take a deep breath and just realize that sometimes with skateboarding, you might get hurt. That's like a big old slice of the skateboarding pie. At some point, you're gonna get hurt. Even if you're super cautious when you skateboard and wear all the safety equipment you can get your hands on, it's still pretty likely that you're gonna get hurt at some point. I'll be completely 100% honest with y'all. If you get hurt while doing an ollie, the pain is gonna be pretty minimum. Minimal? One of those words. In the grand scheme of skateboarding, ollies on flat ground are a pretty low risk trick. I'd argue that 9 out of 10 times you mess up an ollie, it's gonna be painless. But that's not like a fact or anything, that's just me like making stuff up, so don't come at me, Gallop. Most of the time if you do mess up an ollie, the worst pain you're gonna encounter is the board hitting your shin. And yeah, that hurts like no one's dang business, but the pain is gonna last maximum of like 45 seconds. You just gotta walk that baby off. Now I know everything I just said really doesn't help you if you are having this issue with your foot landing on the ground, so let's run through some actual practical tips. First, remember that the ollie actually doesn't start with your feet. It starts up here. Very poetic of me. Good writing, Zach. What I mean by that is you gotta have confidence to do the ollie. Tell yourself that you're going to land the ollie, that nothing's gonna go wrong, and keep telling yourself that until you actually believe it. Once you fully believe it, you 100% are in it, you're ready to go, you just gotta go for it. I don't know, there's not a better way to phrase it than just go for it. You gotta just take a few deep breaths, visualize you landing that trick, and then just go for it and fully commit. And if you're watching this and you're saying, dude, I am fully committing and I'm believing in myself like no one has ever believed in me before, and one of my feet is still landing on the ground, what am I doing wrong? At that point, it just becomes a game of willpower. I want you to really focus on keeping your feet on the board. If it helps, try to pretend that they're like magnetized or glued to the board and you can't move them away from the board no matter what, or you get punished. And I don't know what the punishment is. I was just kind of riffing that part. I accidentally do Chickenfoot when I'm practicing new skateboard tricks all the time, and I'm gonna give you my one tip that helps me most of the time. Whatever foot is doing the chicken foot, if your back foot's touching the cement first or your front foot, try to make that foot go even higher than usual. If you force your problem foot to get higher than usual, you're gonna have more air time to like focus and make sure that that foot lands back on the board. Like I said, this is a technique that I've used a lot, not just with ollies, but a bunch of other skateboard tricks. Just really focus on getting that foot higher than usual, so then it really has no other place to go but back on the board. Chicken foot ollies are all about being uncomfortable on your board. So if you've tried all these techniques and you're still landing with one foot on the ground while the board is in the air still, I'd recommend for just a couple days to take a break from ollies and just focus on getting more comfortable on your board. So instead of doing ollies, just cruise around the neighborhood for a few days and just get more comfortable on your skateboard and just have some fun. The more comfortable you are with your skateboard, the less scary tricks will seem. It's very possible that you are fully committing to the ollie, but you're still not landing it. Maybe as you ollie, your foot slides off the board, or maybe you land on the board, but your balance is off and you fall off immediately. So what's going on with that? Remember, with ollies, it is very important to jump straight up. Your weight should be equally distributed between your front and your back foot. And your shoulders should be directly centered with your feet. A good way to visualize this is just imagine that all your weight is distributed right below your area, if you know what I mean. Once you visualize where all your weight is and it's right below you, that's when you do the ollie. But don't shift your weight once you do the ollie. Your weight should be equally distributed between your feet for the entire duration of the trick. If your weight is off balance when you start the trick, your weight is gonna be off balance when you land the trick. Even if just your back foot has slightly more weight on it when you do your ollie, you're either gonna have your board shoot out in front of you when you land, or you're gonna land and you're gonna fall backwards. The moral of the story is make sure you are jumping straight up and keeping that weight equal while you're doing your ollies. Another issue you could be having is that your front foot is going too high up on your board and it's starting to make the board rotate in some weird funky way. If you're doing this, it's probably fairly easy to spot. Is your board rotating at all? Is it landing on its grip tape side? Is it landing on the side of the board? If the board is landing any way, shape, or form beside the wheels, you're probably kicking out a little or even lifting your foot just a little too high. The solution for this problem is foot placement and foot movement. Your front foot should be going directly up the board. It should not be going diagonal at all. If your front foot is causing your board to rotate, I'd recommend fixing your front foot placement. It is possible that your front foot is in the incorrect position, so then right when you ollie, you lose all this weight distribution and you accidentally start flipping your board. Again, to fix this, I'd recommend you review where your foot placement is, and I'd recommend checking out my last ollie video just as a quick refresher. But what if you are getting in the air with your ollies, but it's just like a tiny little mount? What's going on there? Well, if that's the case, you most likely just have an issue with your jumps, and that's fairly easy to fix. A lot of ollie tutorials focus on the pop and the drag of the ollie. However, your center of gravity and jump are just as important. Make sure before you do an ollie, you're crouching and bending those knees, baby. As I mentioned earlier in this video, remember to keep your center of gravity right below you as you jump, and don't forget to level out once you get into the air. That meaning both of your feet should be at equal height at the top of your ollie. This will ensure that you're getting as much air as possible from your ollie. It'll also make for a much smoother landing when you come back down to this green earth. Getting the jump down with your ollie can take some time and practice, but don't get frustrated. I don't know if anyone has told you this yet, but skateboarding tricks take a lot of time and practice. If you're getting any air from your ollies, even if it is just a tiny little baby amount, it means you're doing something right, so just keep practicing it. So now let's move on to the final common issue and the solution. Okay, so what do you do if you aren't even getting into the air with your ollies? You swear you're pushing down as hard as you can with the pop, you swear you're dragging your front foot correctly, but still you're going nowhere. What's going on? First, I double check to make sure that all your foot placements are correct. Your back foot should be on the tail of the board, and your front foot should be in the middle of the board or just slightly higher than the middle of the board, whatever feels most comfortable to you. Next, keep in mind that the pop of the board and the drag with your front foot is all one fluid motion. Make sure that you are popping the board with your back foot at almost the exact same time you're dragging your front foot up the board. As the tail of your board hits the ground when you pop, your front foot should already be dragging up the nose of the board. A lot of beginners are taught that the ollie is a pop, then a drag, but in reality it should be pop and drag. When you are taught that you should pop the board, then drag your foot, your brain is thinking that it's two separate steps, but in reality it is the same step. So you gotta do them together. If you aren't getting any air, try to focus on making the time from the pop to your foot drag even shorter. If you still aren't getting any air, it could be the way that you are jumping. Remember that the ollie is still a jump, so you have to jump with your skateboard. You have to remember to make sure that your body is centered between your front and your back foot. And again, just keep practicing. That's the best advice I can give you. Ollies are the foundation of a lot of skateboard tricks, and they take a lot of time and practice to perfect. As a beginner, you may get frustrated because you can't get those ollies down, but just keep practicing, please. Pretty please, actually. In the moment, it's hard to feel like you're actually improving with your ollies, but just remember that every attempt you do at an ollie, you're getting one attempt closer to landing an ollie. So just keep practicing those ollies, and one of those attempts, you'll land it, I promise. I hope this video helped you out. If you're still having issues with the ollie, please let me know down in the comments what's going on, and I'll do my best to help you out. And if you wouldn't mind hitting the like button down below before you head out, and maybe even consider subscribing, that'd be very rad of you. Liking and subscribing really helps this channel grow. And as always, have fun, good luck, and keep shredding the gnar.